The Washerwoman's Passenger. Told to me by my great-grandfather, and originally posted under the name Phantasmal Poppy. Many years ago, there lived a widowed woman. She had no family save for her son. While everyone back in those days worked as soon as they were able, her son was still far too young to do a grown man's labor. When the woman was not tending their small homestead, she would take on odd jobs to keep herself and her son fed. Now, this woman was friends with most everyone in the community, including a well-to-do family that lived not too far away from her. Since the young mother was proud and would not accept charity, the wife of this particular family found the way around it by paying the widow to do the family's laundry. This was back in the day before our modern washing machines, so laundry was often an all-day task. In exchange for lessening the workload of the wife, the widow was paid a lot more handsomely than most of her odd jobs afforded. The widow would head up to the wife's house early in the morning to collect the heavy bundle of laundry, return to her home to clean it, and then return it later in the evening. Or at least, she would try to have it returned before dark. You see, this house was way up high on a hill, and since the woman had no other way up than by her own 2 feet, the fastest way would be for her to scale this rather steep slope, a journey that would take her at least 45 minutes one way. Most would think that returning the bundle of finished laundry before dark was just common sense, what with some of the rockier pitfalls and wild animals that might be less noticeable at night. After all, despite the pay she received, she tried to be frugal with her resources, which meant she wouldn't use a lantern unless she absolutely had to. Even if she had a lantern, she would not have been able to hold it aloft, as she needed both arms to steady the burden upon her back. The main reason, however, was that she always felt uneasy when she passed this one particular tree about a third of the way up the hill. She didn't understand why, but a few of her neighbors had used the route she had, and they too felt something was off about that strange place. The tree was strangely thick for the sole tree that had carved a niche for itself on that rocky, barren slope, and its branches hung full of thick foliage. The leaves were so thick, in fact, that it was easy to believe a panther or bobcat might stow itself away within them. One day, however, she had spent so much time trying to wrangle livestock that had knocked down a fence that by the time she was able to finish her hired task, the sun had already disappeared well over the hill. By the time she approached the tree, there was just barely enough light to see. As she stepped closer and closer to the tree, her heart began to race. The silhouette formed an almost demonic shape against the darkened hill, with its leaf-covered branches rustling eerily in the creeping chill of the night. She always felt something off about that tree, but tonight it felt as though the air was thick with a tension she had never felt before. And though her gaze looked round the hill for the strange feeling boring down upon her, she could not help but feel as though the uncomfortable pressure was coming right from the tree. She tried to steady her breathing, to tell herself that it was just a tree, and that perhaps her imagination was getting to herself. After all, nothing had ever happened to her upon the numerous times she took this route before. But a lifetime of living in the mountains made her alert to the eyes of wildlife around her, and that is what she felt upon her. It was as if this mysterious feeling was a predator, and she prey. She tightened her grip on the bundle as she neared it, and wondered if she could manage to run up the slope without tumbling off the path and bashing herself against the more jagged rocks. She soon found out, for the moment she passed under it, she realized that the rustling she heard was far more than a gentle night breeze would have caused. What landed on her she didn't know, only that whatever it was, it made absolutely no sound when it fell. No growl, no hiss, no scoundrel's threat. But whatever it was heavy and nearly doubled her over. Had it been a wildcat or a bear cub, she might have struggled to fling it off, but the moment she felt the long, warm fingers grip her by her shoulders, she froze. They were human-like fingers, only longer, thin and spindly. They did not claw at her, but merely gripped, as if it had fallen upon her and was merely content to just cling to her. She could not tell the color of the flesh in the dim light, only that they seemed too dark, too unnatural to be any human fingers. A strange feeling flooded her senses, and she felt that if she tried to throw this thing off, she would come out the worse for it. Instead, despite the added weight, she marched as quickly as she could up the side of the hill, the thing still clinging tightly to her shoulders, and the bulk of its likely crouched form pressed firmly against the bundle on her back. Many a time she nearly took a tumble and fell, which would have scratched her up horribly on the rocks over the side of the hill at best, and sent her careening down them at worst. The whole way up she prayed, wishing away her mysterious passenger, as her mind raced to think of what it might be. Could it be a demon? Was it the devil himself? Though the trip was only a little slower than usual, she felt as though it was the longest night of her life. All the while, she could feel the eyes of whatever was clinging to her burrowing into the back of her head, its bulk swaying now and then as she neared several drop-offs in the road, as if it were both toying with her and daring her to fall over and let it hit the ground. Finally, she could see the light of lanterns in the distance, and she praised God. The household had not gone to sleep just yet. She only prayed that some of the family might see her horrible burden and be able to fetch a rifle in time to scare it away. As she neared the top of the hill and the slope began to get less rocky and more grassy, she could see several other trees up ahead, ones marking the edge of the property above. The moment she reached them, she felt the fingers leave her shoulders and was nearly forced to the ground as the creature kicked off her back, sailing up into the canopy of a nearby tree. In an instant, she was back on her feet, the laundry forgotten, as she tore off toward the house to safety. Thankfully, the family had relatives that had dropped by because the lady of the house had just given birth, so there were about 15 people milling around on the porch when the washerwoman crested the hill. The moment she saw them, a terrified scream left her mouth, putting them all on alert. Upon telling the party what happened, the men grabbed lanterns, armed themselves, and whistled for their hunting dogs before tearing off, in one ferocious mob, toward whatever creature lingered at the edge of their property. All they found, however, was just a bundle of laundry scattered about on the hillside. And while the woman never again ran across the thing that had hitched a ride on her that night, she also never took that route up the hill at night again either.